I'm Robert, and I think so far you have not heard about the CO4E GmbH. This is basically our spin-off, an official spin-off from the SUMO group that we started in 2019. So in the before times of Corona. And well, there are basically certain things that we cannot easily do when we act as a non-profit German aerospace center. Therefore, in order to provide tools, in order to provide consulting services, in order to provide real running services, we decided to form a spin-off company. It's a consultancy for engineers, GmbH. And when you look at the team that we pictured below, there shouldn't be any immediate surprises. Well, and today we would like to take the chance to tell you a little bit of what we've been doing so far and let you in on our side project, SUMO. But before we get started, well, let me try to let you in on what we observed and where we didn't find any easy solution within the existing SUMO applications. Therefore, we basically, after doing a lot of tutorials, a lot of work with SUMO, with partners, we figured that, well, if you want to work with SUMO, you do need to bring a certain level of IT knowledge. You need to be able to edit files, to work with XML files, for instance. And so for some people, this is actually a showstopper. Also, running or installing your SUMO simulation locally is also not always possible, because for some organizations, there are restrictions on the IT personnel, from the IT staff, that you can't just easily install any software. SUMO also comes with a lot of Python tools, which rely on a local Python installation, which is also not easily possible in a lot of companies or organizations. Moreover, once you even got it installed, your desktop computer might not be as fast as you would have liked it to be, especially if you run a lot of simulations overnight. Well, that's not the best use case for a desktop computer these days. Moreover, I think we've seen the OSM web wizard presented by Jacob yesterday. For those guys of you who have been trying to use it during the last couple of months, well, it seems at times a bit flaky. The access to the Overpass API is not always stable. So sometimes you just run into rate limitations from OpenStreetMap. And this is just really hard for us as the providers of SUMO to somehow fix, right? Using proprietary data for the map or for the traffic demand is tricky. It's not easily done. And when you want to collaborate with others, easily share your scenario, share your findings, well, it's also not really easy, right? You just want to basically make it publicly available, right? You can put your scenarios somewhere, but people need to download it. They need to run SUMO. They need to view your graphs. It could be easier, I think. And finally, we've been talking to a lot of vendors of other software, and they would be happy to integrate SUMO in their tool suite. However, unfortunately, it is not easy for them to really integrate SUMO because they need to understand and really maintain SUMO on their end. And they would just love to have a REST API that they can just call to and make basically use of SUMO, of the features that we are offering there. So these have been just one of the like part of the starting points when we started to build SESAM. And SESAM is basically our approach to, well, to have mobility simulations in the cloud. The idea really is to have a couple of servers, a cluster of servers that are, of course, located in Germany for data privacy reasons. And of course, we decided to have our own OpenStreetMap mirror to have really good access and reliable access to regularly updated OpenStreetMap data. And built on top, of course, as everyone could probably imagine, we installed SUMO. And on top of SUMO, we basically put a web interface or a web application that acts as a wrapper for SUMO to make sure that multiple users, many users can use SUMO at the same time, that the load is distributed on the cluster, and so on and so forth, to really make it easy for users to get access to. And even when you want to start today, you can access SESAM via a browser. Just go to https sesam.co4e.com. And in the foreseeable future, you will also be able to access SESAM via REST API. This is a URL that you will be able to use then, basically. All right, let me just give you a really brief overview before we can dive into the demo. The basic idea is that when you access a SESAM, you basically start off with a workspace that essentially stores your scenarios, stores your simulations, and everything that you would like to work in, right? Then you get a builder module where you can, similar to the OSM web wizard, you can build a scenario and store it in your workspace. Then you have a simulator where you can basically select one of your scenarios from your workspace and run it with SUMO. You can configure certain outputs. And finally, you have the analyzer that is able to look at a simulation result, at the simulation outputs that you produced as part of the second step, as part of the simulation step. And that provides you with more insights on the figures, on the numbers that you've been simulating. Of course, you're never stuck within SESAM. You can always download your scenario, run it locally. You can always download the outputs, process them locally. It is really just a convenience in the web to make it easy for you guys to make use of SUMO and tap into the potential and power that SUMO is offering. Just a quick one. There are basically two user roles that we are offering. You can use SESAM temporary as an anonymous guest. This allows you to make use of a 24-hour storage for your data. We limit guest users to 10 builder calls and 10 simulator calls per 24 hours to basically make sure that we're not overwhelmed and overrun with anonymous users. On the other hand, whoops. Oh, there's an item missing. You can also use SESAM as a registered user. It is all free of a charge. This offers you long-term storage of all data. You can access built-in scenarios that we provide as part of SESAM. And also you have unlimited builder calls, simulator calls. And when you put a simulation in the simulation queue, you get a higher priority in comparison to the guests. All in all, basically the anonymous guests are for trying out SESAM, trying to get a feel for it. The registered users are basically if you plan to do it long-term, if you want to keep your scenarios in your workspace, then it's a good idea to register as a user. It is all free of charge. It costs you nothing. All right, then let's head over to a demo. So you can reach it, of course, sesam.co4e.com. There's a big Start Now button that brings you right as a guest user to your dashboard. There you can basically have a look in your workspace. In your workspace currently, there's nothing found because it's like you're a guest, right? There's nothing there yet. So we're just gonna start with building a new scenario. Okay, so let's start off with the web wizard, selecting something here. You should know this, right? The builder tries to look at your selection currently and tries to come up with a reasonable name for your scenario. It looks at the main roads that are there. When you would zoom out, it would look for boroughs of your city. It tries to provide a reasonable name for your scenario. Then, of course, you can add vehicle types, you can customize it, like you've seen with the web wizard, basically. Finally, click on build. It is now starting to download the map from our OSM server. It is generating all the random trips, the random traffic that you've been used by the OSM web wizard. And then you can basically see that it's now part of your own workspace. You could also just download it. It is now downloading here. It is here, and I could just run it locally. Oops, now the zoom is, I could just run it right here. This is what you basically know, right? All right. Here we go. All right, but the show doesn't stop here. You could now just hit play here and see basically that you could now simulate your scenario. It provides you with a set of options. It provides you with an overview of the scenarios that you selected. Then you can simulate it. It is once again simulating this whole thing. And you can see that the simulation run of your scenario is now also part of your workspace. If you want to, you can once again download your outputs. They're now here. You can basically download these and process them locally as you've been doing in the past, right? Or what you could do is you could also just process them in the analyzer module that I just talked about. And here we basically show you, I think the default is the relative speed that we are showing here as red and green indicated roads, for instance. The idea really here is to give you a feel or a deeper understanding of what's happening in your scenario. This is still really early work. We just want to show you that we plan to have something like that or to basically build up on these features. At the moment, I think it's fixed to show the relative speed. You can also show the bounding box of the scenarios that you just built. There will be more features coming, of course, just to show you basically what we've been doing so far. All right, let's go back to the PowerPoint slide. You almost made it through. Yeah, to give you a brief summary, we wanted to do the first steps towards providing SUMO simulations, mobility simulations in the cloud. SESAM is still in beta, so please expect bugs. We try our very best to fix them. SUMO is free of charge. You can register as a user without paying anything. New features are basically added every month. So we aim for a 4-week release cycle. And features are described in the news section of your dashboard, where you can basically check out what's new. Yeah, and we would love to have feedback from you. And I would encourage you to try out SESAM, and please get back to us. Tell us what you've been liking, what you've been missing out. If there's anything that you would like to immediately see as new features, we'd be happy to talk to you and see what we can do. All right, then the floor is open for questions and answers. Hopefully, And if you want to reach us, you can reach Angelo and me on our co4e.com address, but also at our DLR addresses. That's for sure. All right, thanks a lot. And now I'm open for questions.